All right, so now we'll just do a question and answer and I'm just going to summarize a couple of important comments. One comment is that it doesn't feel always that great hearing positive things about yourself. So कई वक्त इन्ना चंगा नहीं फील करदा ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਾਬਤ ਚੰਗਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ we think they don't mean it ਜਾਂ ਉਹ ਅਸਲ ਚ ਕੁਝ negative ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ we think sarcasm, all the things we experienced as a child, those things come up. And so what do you do when it doesn't feel so good? The answer is just go slow. There is no healing without discomfort in general. If there's discomfort, je dukhda, just dhyan karo, te baitho, paath karo, kuch karo, and just let that feeling come. And then it will neutralize. And if you have a very tiny pipeline, if you do that, it will get a little wider. And if you keep doing that, your pipeline for handling positive will continue to grow. And so that's an important comment, because it's not easy, especially if you've had a lot of neglect in life. Jake Bachman to kafi sanu nahi milya. It's not inna sokha nahi hega. So ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ just ਚੰਗੀ ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ, you might not get to 6 to 1 all at once. You might get to it at you might if you're 1 to 100 positive to negative, you might start at like just 1 positive and 1 negative. Start slow and just be honest. That's another comment that I'll make is, so much of that, if that child just was told why dad has a hard time with saying positive things, what happens with children is they think everything's their fault. So jwaਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਉਹ ਆਪਦੀ fault ਸਮਝਦੇ, whether it is or not. Two adults arguing, fighting, a child watching, no matter who that child is, they think they're fighting because of me, even though that fight had nothing to do with that child. They will always think it's me. So if you just tell them, pause your fight, take it elsewhere, and just sit with them and say, no, it's not you, and tell them it's just some adults sometimes disagree. So nahi tusi nahi mare, ਅਸੀਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਝਗੜਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਇਹ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੈ, ਤੇਰਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ. That will take that experience and it'll make it an okay experience, if they just take the time to do that. And so the pain of not having that done is what comes up when we get a positive comment. Onda. Te o baar nikalda. That's what's coming up and out. You have to feel it before you can let it go. So sit there and feel it. And if you can only take a little bit, that's good. That's a little bit more than you had. But if you avoid even a little bit, you're never going to get anywhere. You got to fill the tank. Your job in recovery is to fill your tank. The more you fill your tank, the less self-destructive things you'll do. That's the law. It's as good as gravity. And so just fill. Another comment, that was a great comment, about around the role of grandparents. Grandparenting is oftentimes seen as a way, an opportunity, and it's actually quite a natural thing. So, ਜਿਹੜੇ grandparent ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਜਵਾਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਦੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਢੰਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ. And usually, the parents who've made a lot of mistakes in their life grow up and they say, yeah, I was too hard on my boys. And then they go easier on the children. This is natural. The grandparents are trying to heal themselves, and they will heal themselves by being better to that child. They'll heal that child because the parents are going to be hard on that child. So not letting grandparents interact, as long as they're healthy. If they're not healthy, then it's a little more complicated. But a lot of times grandparents have made a lot of mistakes, they've learned, and they have so much to give. As a society, by not letting the grandparent in, even though they've done a lot of work, it actually prevents a very natural healing process for families. That's quite natural. A grandparent, my father and his father had a different relationship than me and my grandfather. My grandfather was a very big healing influence in my life. My father and his father, he was probably a bit more traumatic. He was absent a lot. But he learned from that, because when I was interacting with him, he was always there. So when he lived until he was 94. He obviously learned a lot. He had a lot of years to reflect on how much problem that caused. And so the role of a grandparent and excluding a grandparent will systematically make our society more unhealthy. And so if you want health in your family, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just a two, like in some places, like in certain places in India, multi-generational households, or having a bunch of family members all together, all a bunch of adults. Any lok bacche nu palan vaste. So it doesn't fall on the parents. If it's just the parents, those parents have more pressure to be perfect. If it's a community looking after kids, then those kids have many adults they can go to. If they fight with the parents, they can run to the grandparents and, oh yeah, it's okay. Dad didn't mean to yell at you like that. Bang, done. That trauma didn't happen. It was okay. It won't weigh on that child forever. Or they go to an uncle that says, no, just here, do some prayers, do some this, do some that. So the fewer people involved in raising a child, the harder it is to meet all those needs. Because we're not perfect. You gotta work, you gotta do a job, you gotta do stuff. How can you be perfect? You can't. And so a great healing in society will happen as we start getting back to that communities looking after communities. And that's why at NAM we talk a lot about therapeutic communities of being, and turning families into therapeutic communities of being where you can heal, and children can come and learn from your recovery. Any of you who are watching who have grandchildren, your recovery is so amazing and can be the difference between that child suiciding or not. It takes one healthy adult in the life of a very, very traumatized child to save that child from death. Just one. It could be a coach, like a soccer coach, a teacher at school. If they have just one child, that one adult can. And if you think about your life, many people have that one, especially if your parents were occupied or busy. You had that one that stabilizes the psychology and prevents many layers. So we should structure society in such a way that we have adults, as many possible, who are healthy, not putting people at risk, right? So there's reasons why we put boundaries and why a parent might not have a grandparent in the kid's life if they're not at all healthy. So that's an entirely different story. But the thing is it takes a village to do anything really, really well, and it's a good thing to do. Any other questions about this very, very important topic? कोई और question है कि पंजाबी च भी पूछ सकते हैं? I know I spoke a lot of English here, and so we will create more Punjabi specific content. But again, if I misspoke, my humblest begging of forgiveness. It is an honor to teach. Thank you.